Here at Caricarz.com, we always like to highlight the left fielder in the automotive, because we certainly think that they packed enough punches to go against the like of the usual Japanese spec. And what other brand signifies that better than our favorite Korean brand? This is, of course, Kia's latest C-segment SUV, the Kia Sportage. So in today's video, we got the 1.6 turbo two-wheel drive model to see whether this Korean SUV had got what it takes to go against the Japanese. 안녕하세요, 뭉클리스입니다. Alright, so for our market, the Kia Sportage here is actually based on the 5th gen model, but unfortunately, this is not the latest facelift because that model just launched in Korea late last year. This is the pre-facelift version, but it still looks fresh and nice because this actually essentially Kia's version of the Hyundai Tucson because both cars share the same Hyundai Kia entry platform. And in terms of size, although at the front the car looks pretty small, this is quite big because we get the long wheelbase version. And in terms of dimension, it's not too far off compared to the Honda CR. So meaning that this belongs to actually a C+ segment instead of just normal C segment SUV. So it is a big car and it looks really nice. And just like any other Kia Neo models, the Kia Sportage here uses the same opposite genetic design. And as a result, you can see the car looks very unique, very distinctive front face, featuring Kia's signature Tiger nose front grille. And if you move to the side here, it comes with the unique L-shaped LED direct where the actual headlight is actually located here and it is diamond shaped. And you also got some silver accent here at the lower bumper garnish. So overall, it looks very striking and very distinctive over any other C SUVs in the market. Alright, so for the 1.6T high spec here, it comes with this 18-inch alloy wheels, which is of course not as big as other C SUVs, but it still looks nice and looks right with this size of a car. But if you can see the overall dimension and side profile of the car, it retains this very sporty yet conventional SUV body style. It's not a coupe SUV per se, but you can see it comes with this sharp shoulder line that goes up at the C and D pillar here, so it gives you a dimension that looks like a coupe SUV, but in fact it is not really a coupe SUV, but looks pretty nice. And at the back, the Sportage looks pretty nice. You get this roof mounted rear spoiler, full LED taillights, and you also got some bumper garnishes though, same silver and black accent just like the front one. But if you notice, it doesn't have any exposed exhaust pipes, but at least you don't have any fake tail pipes at the Sportage here. Alright, so now we're on board the Kia Sportage CKD, and the first thing you notice about this car is despite its very button-laden setup, it doesn't look aged or doesn't look old like both the Tucson or Santa Fe, dare I say. It looks very premium, it looks very nice also. Okay, at the front here, you get this very familiar front dash setup comprising two 12.3-inch screen, one for the instrument cluster and one for the infotainment. Of course, it comes standard with wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay off the bat. And in terms of UI and everything, it feels very familiar, very similar to the Carnival or to the EV9, but it can get laggy at times, but it's still okay and it's very, very, very usable, to say the least. But one thing I like about this car is actually this dedicated touch control panel here, because as you can see, now it displays the climate settings. You can adjust the climate controls here, the span and then the temperature, everything. But if you press it, you can switch it from climate adjustment to your infotainment button. You can see you can press the home button, phone, everything. So it is a very smart thing to do because you don't want to put as many buttons as you want. So instead, you just put a separate display panel here so you can toggle between media controls and climate control. It's a very, very smart thing to do. Good job, Kia. Okay, of course, at the center console, you got tons of buttons also. Okay, down here, you got two USB charging ports, one 12-volt socket, and you also got this rotary style gear shifter, which I'm not a fan of, let's be honest, but it's still okay. Once you get used to it, it feels okay. But you also got this dial for the driving mode, and you also got this other button. This one is of course reserved for the 4-wheel drive version, but not for this car. Other than that, the seats are quite okay, but unfortunately, only the driver's side get the power adjustment. But unfortunately, also both seats doesn't have any ventilated function, which is a bit of a miss. Same goes to the sound system, because for the 1.6 two-wheel drive version, you only comes with the 6-speaker setup instead of the 8-speaker Hamakada unit Prime on the all-wheel drive version. But overall, the cabin, it feels nice, it feels very familiar, and of course you can see the steering wheel, it still comes with a lot of buttons with the pedal shifters and everything. So conventional drivers will feel very familiar in this car, but at the same time, it is still laden with all the modern tech amenities. Well folks, as you can see live at the back seat of the Kia Sportage, it's a very, very spacious one because like I said earlier, this is a long wheelbase model, so as a result, you get plenty of space at the back here. Okay, as standard, the front seat will be adjusted to my driving position. I'm 175 cm tall, and you can see I've got plenty of legroom. 1, 2, 3, and almost 4 feet full of legroom here. And surprisingly, headroom is also quite decent despite the sporty roofline this car have. Okay, other than that, you can see the floor is almost flat. It's not as flat as many EVs out there, but it's still almost flat. So meaning that if you want to sit 3 passengers at the back, it is still doable as such. And of course, you still got amenities like dedicated aircon vents, 2 USB-C charging ports, and if you notice, it also comes with many clothing hooks like 1, 2 here. You also got 1 and 2 at the headrest of the front seat here. So overall space is quite decent, so as the boot space, because I think compared to other C+ segment SUVs, this is one of the biggest. It measures 591 liters as standard, and of course you can expand it further by folding down the seats, and you still got a space for a space saver spare wheel. So it is a very good and well equipped SUV, and it's very spacious for you and your family. Right, so for our market, the Sportage is available in 2 petrol powertrain flavors. Of course, we got the highest spec one. This is, of course, the 1.6 liter 4-cylinder TGDI Gamma 2 engine, the same engine used on the Hyundai Tucson. This unit outputs 177 horsepower and 265 Nm of torque, delivering the power via a 7-speed DCT automatic gearbox. But finally, according to Kia Malaysia, the DCT unit used on the Sportage is actually a wet clutch version, not the dry clutch version used on the fully imported Tucson, which is quite interesting because you can see the localization being played here. Okay, of course, this being a front-wheel drive model, it only comes with the FWD setup instead of the AWD on the top spec model. But enough talk, let's drive this thing. Alright folks, so now we're driving the Kia Sportage, and let's start with the bad news first, because this car from the get-go, it feels a bit jerky because like I said, you can really feel not only the turbo lag but also the DCT is somewhat lacking because it's like ghost shifting and everything. So from the first to the second to the third gear, it can get a bit rough, especially if you're going through like hill camps and everything. So it's really not that smooth. But once you hit the mid-range speed, like from gear number 4 and above, it is pretty smooth because you don't really feel any very minimal turbo lag, not like the Hyundai Tucson. But at the same time, the power is enough. You got 265 Nm of torque, so overtaking is not a problem at all in this car. And even on the top range of speed also, you can get to the higher speed quite easily. Like for example, once you go beyond the 120, you can go up to those higher speeds in a fast manner. But other than that, this car, the chef kiss, the biggest thing about this car is in terms of ride and handling, because let me tell you, this car feels like a European car. I am not joking, because one thing is that the steering wheel, the steering feel, it feels very solid, although it uses the electronic power steering system, but it feels very solid. It doesn't feel empty, doesn't feel very lightweight like those Chinese cars or EVs nowadays. So much that I think it's very comparable to German cars like Volkswagen or BMW in terms of steering. So it is very solid. And in terms of ride handling also, it's quite decent, because one thing is that you don't really feel the weight of the car, because not only the power is there, but even also it feels quite agile, because let me tell you, this is not a small car. It measures almost the same size as the CR-V, so it's a big car. But once you go to corners, even you go to B roads, it feels like you're driving an Ativa or something, because it's that nimble. But at the same time, comfort is also quite decent. It goes to show that Kia has really perfected balance between dynamics and comfort in this car. Even in this not so nice Malaysian road, this car still feels quite at home, which is a very good thing to do. Okay, in terms of NVH, it's not too bad, not too great either. You can get noticeable wind noises once you go beyond the highway speed limit. But in terms of tire noise, it's quite okay. They use these Hankook tires, which is quite decent. In terms of grip, it's okay. In terms of noise also, not too shabby, but of course you can just upgrade to better ones like Continental or whatever. So overall, this car, it feels very European, and dare I say, not considering the jerkiness from the get-go on the lower end, this car certainly feels and drives better than most Japanese SUVs out there. So if you don't believe me, just go for a test drive and you'll know exactly what I mean. Okay, another thing, Korean cars like Kia and Hyundai really shines, especially in the Sportage here when it comes to ergonomics, because like I mentioned earlier, this car, despite being rather futuristic or tech-laden, almost comparable to their Chinese adversary, but it still retains the same driver-centric setup like something you found in Lexus or Kia or maybe Mazda. So meaning that most of the settings or controls, essential controls, are scattered around the driver, and drivers don't need to rely too much on the screen. Of course, some of the settings are still inside the screen, but you can still access it with buttons. Like for example, you got the driving mode button here. You also got this touch panel where you toggle between the climate and the media. So meaning that you don't really rely that much on the screen like any other modern EVs nowadays. Okay, in terms of safety, of course, this being a Kia car, it's brimming with almost all the other functions. You got autonomous emergency braking, smart cruise control, but one thing again, the Koreans really get it right, is the presence of the blind spot view monitor. BVM is a godsend in this car. You can just toggle the right or the left signal where it displays the blind spot display inside the meter cluster. This is very useful for you, especially if you're driving on highways or busy streets where there's a lot of blind spots for the motorbikes to come in. So this thing is very helpful. Not like those one other brand where you can only get on one side. This car gives you both left and right view of the blind spot. But other functions, the ACC is quite alright. It's not as good as something like the Volvo or maybe like the Kia EV9 even, but it's still usable. So overall, of course, in terms of passive safety also is quite decent. You got TPMS, you got spare wheel, which is quite ideal for you to long distance travel, and you also got the 360 camera view. So overall, it's not an issue, but I have to say both the Japanese and the Chinese can learn a thing or two from the Koreans when it comes to driving ergonomics of the car. Alright, so in conclusion, after driving this car for quite a few days, I have to say the Kia Sportage CKD here has all the merits to punch above this way, especially against some of its Japanese adversary. And for the 1.6 turbo high two-wheel drive model here, the price is also quite on par with some of its Japanese rival, with this model tagging at 176,889 ringgit on the road. Okay, some may complain that Kia Malaysia might be a year or two too late to bring in this car because, as we all know, we already got the facelift model in Korea last year. But I have to say, even at this stage, I would say the Sportage still looks fresh, still feels fresh, and still doesn't feel outdated, especially if you put it side by side against some of its Japanese rival. But if you're still not convinced in trying a Kia car, because you have to remember, Kia Malaysia now is under Bermas Auto. That means you will get a comprehensive warranty package comprising a 5-year or 100,000 kilometer of vehicle warranty on top of a free scheduled maintenance. Yes, that's free scheduled maintenance, so you just need to send your car to a service center without forking out any money. That's a very good peace of mind ownership experience on par with some of the continental brands out there. So in case you have the means to afford this Korean beauty, I would say, why not? Try this instead of you going to the usual Japanese, because I would say you will be fairly rewarded, and if you don't believe me, just go for a test drive.